Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Today's video is just about an engine we dyno. This isn't a dyno mule engine, it's just an engine that we happen to dyno. And I'm gonna share what we learned with this and different things that go along with this. So if you're a channel member, by the way, all of the dyno sheets that are here are in the link that got sent to channel members. If you're like, wait, am I a channel member? I subscribe to your channel. Does it make me? No. I'm going to put a link in the description for this video to become a channel member. But what it is, you pay 150 bucks. So yes, it's kind of expensive. But on the days that I dyno, I usually text you stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't do it this time. One, because I didn't know if the customer would even let me. And the other reason, it was really fast moving session. So I didn't have a lot of time to just get on the phone and text. But you get that stuff. You get all the dyno sheets, and you also get your questions answered quicker. But anyway, if you're a channel member, look in that link. For the rest of you, you just wait for the video comes out like this one and you get to see the results. So I'm going to call this a 421 just because that makes it easier for you guys to understand, but technically it's not a 421. It's a small block Chevy. This particular engine is an aluminum block. It's a BMP aluminum block, and it has a 4.140 bore, and it's got a 3.875 stroke. So I think it's actually like a 417. I could do the math and whatnot, but it's not a 421, but it's close enough. It's not a 415 either. Anyway, the engine itself is made specifically for nitrous. And I'm going to try to dispel some of the myths first before I give you the rest of the specs of the engine so it'll make more sense. In a nitrous engine, typically what you do, on heavy nitrous engines, what you do is you try to kill some of the cylinder pressure because you want to give yourself a bigger tuning window. So for instance, in an NA engine, we run a real tight quench, say 39 to 41 thousandths. On a nitrous motor, this one's like 60, and the chambers are softened. And what that does is it gives you more quench, or less quench, I should say, which slows down the burn. And we want to slow down that burn because if it burns too fast, it causes lots of things to happen quickly in a nitrous engine. And if your tune's not exactly on, the weather conditions aren't on, you can really tear up some stuff. And I'm not talking like 150 shot or 200 shot. Typically, this takes place when you cross the 250 horsepower nitrous shot range. This is going to go well above that. So anyway, the other thing that goes with it that would change is the compression ratio. So in an NA engine, we might run, say, 15 to 1 if we could get there. This one's 13 to 1. And it has probably the most expensive pistons I have ever bought for an engine in there. They're $3,200 diamond pistons. They're custom dome that matches the Dragon Slayers. And they've got an 043 3mm ring pack. They're Napier second ring. They've got gas ports, lateral, not vertical. And they're coated, so really expensive. This has a scat crankshaft, scat rods, and it's also got a thick wrist pin. That was part of the reason why it cost so much for the nitrous. And the heads up top are my Dragon Slayer. They're my 4060 ones, and they were my hand-ported ones. So they're very nice, and they had titanium intake valves. It has a 2892 intake. That's a Super Victor 2 from Edelbrock, but it's been converted to a Dominator. And it's got shaft rockers, obviously, that run it. And the camshaft itself came from Cam Motion. And the camshaft's the other part that makes this definitely a nitrous engine. So on an NA engine, you would do things totally different. So for instance, the intake duration, and I won't tell you the exhaust just to give you just to kind of keep some of that secret, but this came from Cam Motion. Bobby did it. But the intake duration's 280 degrees at 50 thousandths. 280. That is a lot of duration. On an NA engine, we would not do that. Just to give you an idea, the 540 big block dyno mule is only 277. So this, or 275 actually. This is even bigger. So it's different. Also, the lobe separation's way spread apart because that spreading out that lobe separation is reducing the cylinder pressure. The exhaust duration's crazy larger, much larger than the intake duration by a bunch. So the split's even more because of the nitrous. The lobe separation, again, it's split. All this, if you were to do a cranking compression ratio test, which we didn't do, would be very low. That kills your NA power. So, and going back to that again, you might say, why did you do that? Why don't you just make as much power as you can NA and then throw nitrous on it? Because here's the thing. It's easier to make power with a jet change in nitrous than it is on trying to do stuff on the engine to make more power, NA, then hopefully that translates to nitrous use. The other thing is, if you do stuff that makes it really good NA, like I said before, it makes it not so good on heavy nitrous use. Your window is so small that anything can go wrong. So in other words, I could put more nitrous to it and the overall horsepower would make more. So there you go. In this particular engine test, what we did, we only tested really 2 things. We tested 3 different carburetors. So you had a Gen 3 Holley, and it's out of the box besides some jet changes. I think it's a 1250. I'm almost positive on that. Gen 3 1250 Dominator. And then we tested the Mark Whitener 1250 Dominator. And then the last one was a Gary Williams 1150 CFM Dominator. Now this one, I gotta mention, is different from all the rest, because what he had done is the customer had set in a 1150 carburetor and then Gary Williams redid it. For those that don't know who Gary Williams is, maybe you've seen some shorts on YouTube with him, and he's the one that chews the cigars and talks. Seems really down to earth. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you the one that made the most power was the Gary Williams. And which I'm sad to say I did not take a picture of it, and I wish I should have. That's the first time I've ever seen a squirter like that, ever. So, and I'm talking about the pump squirters. Usually you have a pump squirter that squirts 2 shots, 1 on each barrel. This one had one that shoots 2 at each barrel, so it's actually 4. One of the most unique things I had seen. I didn't know how well it worked, but that was unique. So anyway, enough of that. The other thing that was tested was this, I have a 2-inch 4-hole tapered spacer from Speedmaster Pro. I know it's a knockoff. I bought it years ago from Summit. I don't even know that they sell them anymore. I'm probably insanely expensive if they did because of the tariffs. But I had that 4-hole taper, and then I had the one that's going to be used in the small block Ford Cam Challenge that came from the guys up in Canada, the Polymer Racing Products. It's their 4-hole tapered, but it's dimpled. Those are the only 2 things that were tested because, again, this was a customer motor. He was nice enough to let me test those on it before we did it. So let me just show you some dyno runs and show you how all that stacks up. Sorry I went blabbering long. It's really, when you think of me talking more, it's more to save myself from answering so many questions in the comments or having people say to me in the comments, how come you didn't answer my question? Time is never on my side. But anyway, thanks for watching this. Let me get to the dyno stuff. And again, channel members, it's already there in your link. Just click on it, it autofills. Here we go. Here's the dyno sheet for the Gen 3 Holley carburetor 1250 CFM. As you can tell, it's making some pretty good steam, especially at the top. It wasn't like it ever nosed over too. We kept revving it higher, hoping to see it where it slightly dip off. It just kind of holds the same. So 706 horsepower about. We then switched to the 1250 from Lightning carburetors and put it on, and this is what it made. Now the one thing disadvantage is, when I'm watching the actual O2 reading, so just to give you an idea, they are relatively close, but the Lightning Carb is just a tad leaner. So if I was to go back in time, I probably could have added some jet if I had time. I still don't think it would have matched, even because it was so much lower on horsepower, and I don't have a reason for that. But if I added more jet, I don't think it would gain the almost 30. So, but anyway, after that, I went to the Gary Williams carburetor. Really didn't think that this one was going to make any more power because it's a smaller CFM than the rest. And Gary Williams had told the customer that this will actually be better on the nitrous stuff and be more responsive. And it is better in some areas, but in all fairness, overall, it's better than the Holley. And here's the comparison. Here you can see the comparison. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The Holley Gen 3 and that Gary Williams are really, really close to the same, except for the Lightning one. And I'm not knocking the carburetor. I really don't have an answer for why it did what it did. So maybe it's just a fluke on our part or something else. But that's what it did. The next thing that was tested is this dimpled carb spacer. So again, using the Speedmaster one, and no, I don't have a picture of it, versus this dimpled one. And here's the results of its comparison. It's a virtual wash. They're about the same. You might give a little bit of edge to one or the other, but that's essentially it. So not a huge difference either way, but fun testing nonetheless. I'm going to leave the video with this. This is a comparison between the old combination and the new combination. So the heads are essentially the same, besides now the chambers are softened, so it loses some chamber volume because of, gains some chamber volume because of that. It also has a different cam, and you can see the cam specs in here. You know why I put them at the end of the video? Because no one makes it this far. But anyway, the previous combination was about 15-1, and the new build, of course, is 13-1 almost, and so we got 2 points less compression ratio. And if you look, the black line's the old combination, and it was making similar power. It was definitely making more torque down low. That's probably related more to the fact that it has, one, a smaller camshaft, and two, more compression ratio. But it's an interesting to track that. So to be so close, especially at the top. And we didn't keep revving it out, and I almost wish we would, but there was no sense besides just getting those numbers. It doesn't help the customer because, in all fairness, he's going to shift about 77, 78. So that's about where we were anyway. It only would have told what will happen later, that an RPM band that he would never run at, especially on the nitrous. But nevertheless, interesting, so I put it at the end. Guys, thanks for watching. Remember, I know Superman. I do not port cast iron heads. I did raise Superboy. You guys take care.